Hi there. Welcome to Life Between Coasts, the podcast where we dive into our personal journeys connected to synchronicities. So grab your coffee, light a candle, and let's begin. I'm your host, Leah, and we're glad you're here. Today, we sit down with TJ, and I've known TJ for a little bit of time here. I've watched him grow up into the man that he has become. Let's say that.
It's like 10 plus years.
Yeah. It's. I was trying to think back before you got here, and I couldn't. I couldn't add it all up, but it's been at least a decade of time, which we've seen you grow so much from that. So tell me about you.
Well, my name is TJ Greggs. Born local of Ipsy. Have been here my entire life. I currently work as the admin assistant to the superintendent for the Washtenaw ISD.
Nice.
Great organization. I love working there.
Yeah.
I'm also on the outreach committee for Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper.
Mm-hmm.
I just actually got back from a 3v3 tournament that was being hosted up at Prospect Park. That was fun. It was just very hot outside.
Right.
Yeah, it was good things for the kids. I ran into a bunch of people that I know up there, good friends, good work colleagues, and
Nice. And what do you do with as that liaison? What do you do with that?
For the most part, it's just doing different outreach for either resources or just creating different programs and doing things for young men of color in the community.
Okay.
So, like one of the things, we have a freedom school that we do for kids during the summer. If they want to come, students can come hang out and participate if you're either like towards Ipsy or Lincoln. And I got to, reach out to Corner Health and see if they wanted to partner with us to do some work with the kids like in the summer. And one of the programs that we came up with was doing cooking classes and positive body health classes. So, proper grooming, proper bathing, stuff like that. And this is like helping young teenagers, like 9th, 10th graders. And then we're also doing like coding. So like the elementary school kids and even the high school kids are doing coding and different engineering classes. It's amazing.
Learning the skills of today's time, with the computers and electronics and robotics and things that we're shifting to.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the things that we're doing at my job right now is like a huge focus on career and technical education, because there is such a lack of just young folks that do not have these skills to come into this workforce and be able to do this.
Right.
So like we're putting it into focus of trying to be able to have kids start this at an early age, so that way by the time they're in almost middle school, they have an idea of what they want to do for a career path. And then by the time they're in high school, they're like taking classes and getting certified, so they have a certification right out of high school.
Right. And so that removes the need for a college degree, and that opens up other job opportunities to excel in those fields.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Now, going back to you, not necessarily what you're doing, but just talk about a little bit about your childhood.
Oh man,
you said you were born and raised here.
Yeah.
Yes. Siblings?
Yes, I do. I have 4 brothers. I have 2 older, 2 younger. My oldest brother actually passed away a few years back.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Unfortunately, yeah. My older brother now, he lives down in Florida with his wife. My younger brother Cody, he just had his baby 2 years ago. He's about to be 2 in August. My nephew Luca, he's adorable, little chunky man.
So Cody is a dad?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, he is. It is amazing. And he is a great dad. I'm so happy to see him
lovely.
thriving.
Nice.
And then my youngest, Isaiah, he's actually working at Amazon and working full time. Lives on his own. He has a girlfriend.
Nice, really good.
Yes.
And he's been with Amazon for many years. Actually, he's gotten into a good position for him.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's consistent for him. He's good at it. And
right.
It makes me happy because it's just knowing that he has like security and he's able to take care of himself is just an amazing.
Right. And now talk about now mom and dad, they didn't stay together.
No.
So there was a divorce there, or
no, they just separated. They never really.
Never
they never divorced. Like my mom, I don't know why she didn't divorce my dad. I always assumed it was just because of financial reasons, and they were just like, don't want to deal with any of that mess.
Right.
So they stayed together until my mom passed, which you remember when that happened.
I do. I remember we were here.
Yeah. No, that was craziness. And then just recently, actually, that put a lot of perspective for me personally in my life, because I used to have a lot of anger towards my dad and stuff and not wanting to talk to him for like, him being selfish. But then as I grew into an adult, and it's just like, okay, I could see more of how you became the person that you are.
Right.
So I became to understand more
Right.
why he is the way he is. And like now he's been sober, but he's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
So it's just
But there's so many. I mean, what stage? I mean, there's
stage 3.
yeah, but there's still there are things out there.
Yeah.
He's been hard to his body too. So I mean, you have to put things in perspective, in certain ways. But
Yeah, no, like making a will. That was one of the weirdest things. I've like,
yeah, like adult things that you don't think about, because that's something that my mister and I have been discussing and going back and forth and creating things, and it's just like, wow,
yeah, no,
you don't think about it, but
like,
it's
well,
something
like
that
with
has
my
to be
mom
done.
and my brother, like they died so suddenly. It was just like, all right, well, like it was like whiplash.
Yeah.
This is completely different because like I found out back in February, and it's just been like an ongoing thing since then.
And is he taking treatment?
Yeah, actually next Monday's his 4th round of chemo.
Okay.
He was having an issue with like actually eating consistently. Like he's been having a hard time keeping food down and stuff. And the doctor's not going to let you get chemo unless you're hitting your calorie count. So he's been doing a lot better. He's got a lady friend he's been hanging out with. He's, like I said, he's been sober. So it's just like,
Right. And how long has he been sober?
since February. He was sober back in November after he got into treatment, but then he had a relapse in February, but immediately got right back onto it. So
Okay. So no, but that's good because there was some times that I know how you felt. I mean, I can't say I know how you felt because I wasn't in your shoes, but I could see it on your face how you felt the few times he would show up at the office and unannounced, and you'd be like trying to scurry him away or something. It's just I think for probably just for the embarrassment factor. I think we've all been embarrassed by our parents at times.
yeah, I mean, it got to the point where like embarrassment wasn't a thing. It just became like more of like I just don't want to deal with it
More of a
because
nuisance.
it's just like
I'd rather you not be in my life.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like you're gonna continue to be this selfish. Like I don't want you to be in my life.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where like even though he was still drinking, he just became a part of my life because I became the person that was taking care of him. I had to pay his bills. Like if I wasn't doing that, he would have been kicked out and on the road. And it was just like I remember this is probably like 3 years ago. It was like a year after I became his payee on Social Security, and I was like, I would just get his money and I would send it to him. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, you can take care of it. I don't really want to be responsible. Well, one day he calls me up and he's just like, I messed up, and I was like, what do you mean you messed up? And he's like, I'm back on my rent. And like, mind you, he lives in assisted living. He lives in low income housing, so his rent's only like $200 and something a month. And I was like, okay, well, how much are you back? He's like 3 months. I was like, all right, hold on, let me call your landlord real quick. So I call his landlord. I start talking to him. I was like, oh yeah, don't worry. He will have all of his rent paid off. Don't worry about that. And I called him back and I was like, yeah, no. So now you get an allowance. It's reverse, role reversal. It's like, okay, cool. No, this is just like the child has become the parent. It's been like, it was like that for a good while where it's just, where it's just like, I have to tell him, it's just like, I'm getting a call like, oh, I went and hung out with my friend and he said he was going to pay for this food and we ain't got money for the food. And it's just like, let me talk to the person. I have to give them a card number so they can pay for it because he's blown through his money already. Like, and it's just like, it's times like that where you're just like, patience, just patience.
Bite your tongue.
Like I'm a very empathetic individual. I just hope to get like somewhat of something back in my life to roll reverse back. Let the universe give me back, please.
I think, you know what?
The universe has done me very well.
I think so. I do believe that. Just knowing at least the last decade of your life. How old are you?
I just turned 34.
Should be. I'm not much. I'm only 12 years older than you, but still, it's just funny because I think back when you first started, it was for, and let's talk about this just because for the local sake of it, because people will know you because of the character that you portrayed.
Uncle Sam.
You were Uncle Sam.
Yes.
And so let's touch on that for a minute. So the Uncle Sam, you were our mascot for the tax office, and we always joked and said it was basically everything but rain, out there. But you used Washtenaw literally as that strip of land was your stage. Washtenaw was your audience, and every single body that drove by during any tax season, even to this day, I can say, "Do you remember Uncle Sam?" Oh yeah. that's my office. And that's all I have to say. And that's why we have your picture still in the window as like proof that you were here.
That is hilarious. Yes. No, I mean, just that alone, that helped me up so much of my music, just like with me with live performance, because I'd be sitting on the side of the road rapping for like 6-7 hours a day in the middle of the winter. So it's just like I was getting my stamina up. I'm sitting there getting practice in, and it's just like I'm learning how to perform better on a stage and know how to like get movements down and things like that.
Yes.
So like, let me just circle back. This was right after me and Cody had moved out of our previous apartment, and Cody had just lost his job at what was it, E.B. Brown, and I was at the car wash, and I remember it was a polar. I remember the day I quit. It was a polar vortex, and
It was the car wash.
the second day of this, Happy's Pizza across the street burnt down. And the firefighters couldn't put the fire out because the water was freezing as it was coming out.
Yeah.
And I remember I called my boss, and he was like, yeah, no, we're open. And I was like, no, I'm done. I was like, I'm not going to go work in a car wash, have it come out, and it'd be a sheet of ice. Like, this is stupid. I get you're trying to make money, but no.
No, not today.
And yeah, no, I was like immediately, I was like, I gotta find something like new. And then yours was the first spot that I found, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Posted on Craigslist or something like that, which is funny. It was just like, outdoors, dress up, this, that, whatever, I was just looking for that, and it worked out. But, that flourished into other things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you probably were out there for a good, 5 years, I think.
Yeah, I want to say, yeah.
And then you started dabbling in other things and started to get back to school and that. But before we move on from that, let's go back and talk about Mom for a second. She had surgery, and it was the complications that caused that.
Well, not necessarily even just that,
but
what
it
it was
sudden. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So what had happened was like my mom had a drug problem when I was younger. She was addicted to opiates.
Okay.
She had a back injury, and then she got put onto Oxycontin for it. Okay. And then when they took her off of oxys, she was like, this sucks.
Right.
I can't afford to buy oxys. It's too expensive. Hey, let me do heroin instead because it's just cheaper. It's literally what it is. It's just cheaper oxys. And so for the longest after her surgery, she was refusing to take anything for it. She was like, no, I'm not going to take anything. I remember there, like when we're doing her walking up and down the hallway and her just breaking down and just being like, I'm in so much pain.
Right.
I feel horrible. It was just terrible.
Right.
And so eventually she ended up caving in, and one of her friends ended up helping her out, giving her some stuff to help her do it. And she overdid it and didn't wake up from it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that was the cause. I knew it was sudden, but it was, you kind of said, this happened, I've got to go, and we said go, and
yeah, no,
it was so fast.
I remember exactly what was going on that day. So I was up at the house that we were working on, Morton Taylor.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to come. No, I had gotten a call that she was not really breathing, and I was like, okay, hold on, let me get back and figure out what's going on. And then on my way back, I got a phone call.
Because you called me.
Yep. And I was like, hey, I got to go back to my house, see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so on the way back over there, I had finally gotten a call, like right as I was getting off the highway off Michigan Avenue 94, that she'd stopped breathing. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm almost there. Like, just make sure everything's good. And then by the time I pulled up, it was just, she was on. So, and I remember, oh my God, I was so mad because they would not let me in the house at first. Yeah. And I was banging on the door, and I was like, you this is my house. You're going to let me in.
Right.
And they're like, no, we have to do everything. And I was just, my head was spinning. It was wild.
Right. And how old were you?
I was, let's see, that was February. So that was August. So I would have been 25. No, younger than that. 23.
23. Okay.
Yep.
So then that means that, at least 12 years. Because if you're 30, you said you're 34?
34 now.
So that was 23. So
2015, yeah.
Yeah, you were 21, 22, somewhere right in there when you first entered our lives. So, but that was like your first shift. Because when you lost your mom and you couldn't rely on your dad, that was when you became dad to really Cody and Isaiah, just to make sure that they were staying on the right track. You could see that you kind of, okay, I got to step up and make sure that they're kind of covered, because you guys stuck together, the three of you, for several years from that point forward.
Yep.
Um,
Like
I think
both.
there was probably at least another 5 years.
Yeah. What was it? It was about because after that, like we lived in my mom's old apartment for about, I want to say it was like a year
Right.
after she died, and then we moved out. And I was, because it was just, I was sick of that place.
Right.
And so we ended up, we were homeless actually. Cody was working at the hotel. And I'm not going to just say like, I held it down for Cody, because Cody did a lot to help hold it down with me as well.
Emotionally, like just keeping you guys, the three of you were connected. You were
because like
kind of linked by arms, and it's wherever one went, the other two followed.
Yeah. So like
that's what I was meaning. You were supporting each other.
Yeah. No, we had, what was it? It was, yeah, we were homeless and Cody was working at the hotel. So we were staying at the hotel for like a month until we got into Timberlands.
Yeah.
And then once we got into Timberlands, it was like, okay, we're good.
Right.
Ain't got to stress about nothing. We got a spot that's pretty decent. We just got to start saving money and then figuring out what we're going to do.
Right.
And I remember when Cody got in a little hiccup of trouble, after he got done with all of that, he ended up moving out to West Virginia for a little while.
Okay.
Isaiah had gotten his own place. So that was the first time I was actually like on my own for a while. And it was very interesting. It was just like, I was like, okay, well, let me see how this goes. And then I was like, I'm not about paying all these bills by myself. So I moved people in really fast. But like, that was like the first time in a while, like I hadn't had my brothers around, because like they'd been in my life for like on the daily basis for so long that It was just like, once they were gone, it was just like,
And at what point was that?
This was probably what, 2017, I want to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2017. And no, 2018. It's 2018.
Yeah. So now it's just TJ. TJ only has to worry about TJ at that point.
Yeah, and I mean,
and so
that was good.
These are all these different shifts that you're seeing, and so now TJ can concentrate on TJ.
Yep.
And so TJ goes back to school, and TJ works on.
Thank you guys, by the way.
That's between you and my mister, I think. I support everything. And of course, the letters, I don't mind writing the letters, because we'll tell anybody anything about you, because you're, like I said, we've just the relationship we've cultivated from a Craigslist ad. And it was honestly, I mean, if you think about it, it was just like how intertwined things are. So I don't want to take credit for something that he definitely stepped up to do. Because, he sees the same thing that I see, and, and it's just that, okay, here you have that diamond in the rough that really wants to make it somewhere and really, really wants to do something, but he's got this speed bump. So how can we get him over the speed bump? That was all he wanted to do.
Yep.
Because you had everything else in you. And so that was, like I said, that was your perseverance getting you over that speed bump. He just gave you a little bit of assistance. So, you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Other than the emotional support and all of that. So, but at any rate, don't make me cry. I'm supposed to stop crying on this damn thing. So, but so you do those things, and we'll go back to your music in a minute, but because that's a great conversation to talk about all of that. But so you left, obviously you stopped dancing as Uncle Sam, because at some point you do have to grow up, and that's what I always tell people. They're like, oh, you don't have anyone out there. I'm like, yeah, well, I tried to replace you, and nobody could top you. So when you had the best, it was hard to bring in anybody else. And no shame to anybody else that stood up there, because they had the guts to go out there and do it, but they just didn't have the heart. Because you were doing, in your mind, that was your entertainment stage. You were doing and planning and moving in your mind the things to propel you forward. And so I think that takes a lot of it, of everything to come to that too. So outside of that, so how did you get into the school? What started yourself towards the education side of it?
So since I was a kid, actually, I've wanted to. It's really just help youth. I was in foster care for a good portion of my life. So I was just thinking about this the other day. It's crazy because it's
Right.
like I sat there and I did, when I was in high school, I did studies for my speech classes and psychology classes about teen aggression and just like what causes it, how to make it preventable, like what avenues can we do to do this.
Yeah.
And so after working at the Hilton, that was just like I was working overnights. That was draining. It was killing me.
You had some great dissonance, though.
Oh God, that's the one thing I miss. I will forever miss. But I ended up doing the program, Formula 734 when I was making music.
Right.
And this is like post-COVID, so it's like I didn't have my original team. I had the most seniority there outside of like, upper management and stuff, which most of upper management had quit. So it was like I had like none of the same team that I had. I'm sitting here trying to train all these people. I'm like a skeleton crew and stuff.
Right.
And I was just running myself ragged, like working double shifts and just getting some days like 2 hours of sleep. And it's just like, I was like, all right, well, let me look into something more of like what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I get into something with like the youth that involves the youth? And so I was like, education. Let's start with education because like I have a degree in administrative work. So I was just like, let me figure out what I can do. And I saw that there was a spot at Red Oak, the young adult program at the ISD. And I was like, all right, maybe I might at first, because I have a really bad habit of like trying to talk myself out of something. Like I don't think I deserve it almost. And then I'm like, no, worst case, I have to keep telling myself, worst case scenario is no. Nothing or no. Yeah. That is what it is.
Yeah.
So yes. I sat there after I applied and I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute, the Washington ISD. And then I pulled out my old check stub from Formula 734 and I was like, oh, they fund that. Cool. I have references. So I reached out to the director of Watching on My Brother's Keeper, Jamal Bufford, and another person that is in Watching on My Brother's Keeper in Formula 734, Dr. Roderick Wallace. Right. And I was like, hey, can you guys give me a reference for this application for this position? They're like, yeah, no, of course, absolutely. So I ended up going in and then doing the interview and I ended up getting the job. And so it just all kind of came to where it needed to be. And then I worked at Red Oak for 2 years. God, I love that school. I miss my students. That's like one of the one things I do miss about my new position is just like I miss being around my students.
Right.
But
because now you're more administrative. Yeah. And you are student-based.
Yeah.
So you get to see them when you're doing the day camps and things like you did today, but not necessarily on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. Like, and then like, it's just, it's working the same place, just doing different things. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. Like I said, it's just like, it's slow steps to what I want to do. It's like, I got to, again, going back to Rod again, love that man to death. One of my dreams when I was younger, when I first started music, was to play at Top of the Park. Last summer I got to play the main stage at Top of the Park.
Nice.
So I was like, check that off. I was like, check that off the bucket list. Like, it was amazing.
That's great. Well, I know because you used to do a lot of shows and things like that. Now let's talk about music. So what was the name of your music group or what were you doing? Just tell me the beginnings of everything and what you were doing there.
So music started, God, this started forever ago. In the long years, like of 2020 or 2009. Beforehand, like I'd made music, but I wasn't like really getting into it seriously. Like I learned how to write through poetry and stuff, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can rap. And then so my first group was Insane Industries, which had a lot of fun growing up with my friends and stuff. Drew and Keyshawn, fucking ride or die, I love them. But Keyshawn ended up making bad choices with his life. So I had to drop him out of what we were doing in our lives.
Okay.
And we ended up coming up with, Drew really started Northern Threat Entertainment. Okay. And so that's when we started doing like local shows and stuff. We started doing open mics, as well as us creating our own group, Approachable Minorities. Mm-hmm. And that was us just rap group. My boy Mark is doing the DJing and performing for all different types of people. So much fun. So many great opportunities. Yes. So many different artists met.
The name. I've always loved that name.
I love art. So the story behind this is we were at the studio one day, and my boy, I was funny that we were just talking about this. My boy Aries Jones, shout out him, my dude. He had this crazy colorful beard back in the day.
Okay.
And he had come into the studio one night while like me, Drew, and Marcus were in there working, and he had completely shaved it off. And Marcus was like, "Man, you really look like an approachable minority now." And we all just laughed, and I was like, "That is a great name. We should use that name."
No, it's great. I love that.
Yeah, no, man, it's amazing. I've opened up for like different artists like Snow the Product. I got to go and rap on stage with KRS-One and Jay Electronica. It's just I met famous DJs. I got to do a lot of different things with music. I mean, with music, that's how I've gotten my job now. Like,
right. Well, yeah, absolutely. So that's what I mean. And music is your underlying theme. That's probably. I mean, would you say is that what you turn to in times of frustration or sadness, or when you just need to check out? You just pop in the earbuds and go, or whatever was at the time, headphones or whatnot. Yeah, I know, because whatever it might be. I know I bought you hundreds. I'm going to say hundreds, but now I think I probably bought you 5 pairs a year, just because the wires break or they'd stop working or whatever. But I mean, that's how hardcore everything was there. So no, that's great. And so what do you now when you're on stage, are you still doing these things where you're going to places and getting on stage? Or I mean, because full-time work takes over.
Yes. Full-time work, full-time family, full-time committees, programs, and all types of stuff takes a lot. I've actually taken a big step from like writing music lately. I've just been like, curating a lot of other different stuff right now. I still do the Formula 734 program every year with my students. Now I have I have kids that are 10 years younger than me who are now helping mentor, and like that takes a lot of pressure off of like me and my boy Buff and like the other people, so that we could like take care of all like the other stuff,
right?
But of course, like we still come in and we make music, we still do our circles, we talk about what's going on in the week, and we come up with our topics. And but whenever I get the chance, I will always, like, if somebody's like, "Hey, I got a performance you want to do," I'm gonna go out and do it. Now I'm at the point where it's just like I'm writing stuff just for whenever I feel like writing stuff.
Right.
And I've gotten the real itch. Like after going to movement this year, I've gotten the real itch to get back into producing. So
okay.
Once I feel like I start producing again for myself, I actually have a lot of people telling me they're going to give me beats. So I need to just hit them up and tell them to throw me beats.
Right. Well, that's, well, maybe the universe is starting to tell you, hey, you can still do these things. You can still, work. You can still go to the committee meetings. You can still do all of these things for other people. That's, the shifting back, because even in 2018, where now you could focus on TJ, you did focus on TJ, and that accelerated your life to where you are now, because you're applying for positions. Even when you second guess yourself, you still did it. And once you put that application out there, then you're like, oh my gosh, I already know these people, and you could bring in other connections, and those connections, at the time of application, you didn't realize you had, but once you did, again, those are those universe kind of nudges to tell you that you're on the right path and you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, universe be screaming sometimes.
Yeah. You just have to take time to listen. And that's what the biggest thing. And in chaos, like I've always said, chaos, you can't hear it. If things are too crazy, if you're trying to make sure that you have a roof over your head and all of that, and you're not living in your car or wherever, those, when those things are clouding your mind, you're not seeing all of that. But once that part calms a little bit, you can start to see your pathway. You can see where it's pointed you in those different directions.
Yeah.
Now with the you said, so 734, My Brother's Keeper.
Yep.
And
Formula 734 with my
Formula 734, I should say. No, those are local organizations.
Well, Formula 734 is a program under Watching on My Brother's Keeper.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we do this every year where we make an album, essentially.
Okay.
We do these with like high school kids, some young adult kids that are like anywhere between like 19 and 25. And then we got some of our old heads like me, and then some of the other people that are.
And so this is the group that performed at Top of the Park then?
Yeah, we did ours. I actually performed at Top of the Park twice last year.
Oh,
I did main stage.
Well, twice.
I did the main stage, and then I did the side stage, the little mini one,
Okay.
and then that's the one where we did Formula 734. So we had all the young folk come out and perform.
And
That was great.
what are the lyrics? What are they writing about? Because there's differences. 10 years is a big time frame. I mean, if you look at the sequence of time, and what everybody faces. These kids went through COVID. So
I can't imagine.
right. So I mean, but at a different age than we were. So we're adults trying to work. They're in school. So
Virtually.
well, you're right. And so what are they writing about?
Well, a lot of them, see, that's the one thing. That's how we operate this program. So they're always writing about our topic for the night.
Okay.
So the way the night starts is we eat. We all got our food. We sit there. We chop it up, check in on each other. Like, hey, all right. Rabble back and forth about some stupid comment that somebody's got to say about something, or it's just like
Right.
some outlandish opinion about something. And we just got to sit there and talk about it for a second.
Right.
Like, not reading books. Said.
Yeah.
But no. So we end up coming together eventually, and then we'll come out with a topic. So it'll be like fear or money or
Right.
parents or fatherhood or like something like that. And then we discuss and like how it's affected us in our lives and like what is going on, like how we have dealt with it, well, how we're trying to deal with it. And then like, okay, that's going to be the topic for the night. And then they break off. Now the styles of songs, completely different. Like I see a lot of talent with these young men. I'm glad that they have an outlet and a place to be able to do this now.
Right.
Because like a lot of kids, that's what keeps them out of trouble. They just have nothing to do.
Right.
So it's just like, this is a good way to keep kids out of trouble, keeps them productive, gives them opportunity to put money in their pocket. Like,
Yeah.
It's great program.
Well, and and the beautiful thing, I always say that the internet is the level playing field. I mean, look at us, right? YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever all of the main, podcast locations that we can put this out there. But, they create a channel, they upload their video of doing their song that they've created, and next thing you know, somebody's like, oh, I like that style, or I like what you say. And, but it could go anywhere.
Right.
Those are the things. I mean, look at how things can go viral. You're like, how did that go viral? You shake your head sometimes, but it could, and that's the possibility.
No, it was really funny actually when I went to Movement back in Memorial Day weekend this year. And I got so many pictures and so many different articles of me.
Yeah.
There was like one article where this guy like took 2 different pictures. He was like, yeah, this guy made it twice. He had such a great vibe. I was just like, yes.
Well, and if people do know what Movement is, that's of course why I'm certain if people know what Movement is, but Movement is a
electronic music
yes,
fest. That's Techno Fest, baby. Techno Christmas.
Yes, annually. Usually, it's always Memorial Day weekend.
Every Memorial Day weekend.
Downtown Detroit. Yeah, and it's just a movement because that's all you do is move. I mean, that's it.
Detroit comes alive. It's such a beautiful thing to see.
Right.
Like it just never shuts down for like the whole weekend. Like there's always something to do. I'm so mad I did not go to the art center and just watch everybody come up with the sun. But again, I kept saying this all weekend. I am feeling my age. It was a very last minute decision for me to go to Movement.
Okay. But you find that you can't stay up as all night.
Like just staying up all day. Like I'm up at 5:30 in the morning every morning now. So like I'm always up at 6 to 8 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there after the first night and I was like, oh my God. I woke up and I was like, my back, my knees, my calves, what happened? Normally like I stretch, I work out for the week before getting ready. I didn't do none of that. No, I was just in pain. And then by the time Monday rolled around, I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I was like, I'm old. And I'm feeling I need to just start working out on the regular basis because obviously I'm feeling my age.
You're getting old on us, TJ.
It's sad. I was like 10 years ago. I was like, what? This ain't the kid who used to sit there and run off 2 hours of sleep like 10 years ago. What happened?
Oh gosh, I know. I mean, there's yeah. I'm certain that there's times that you didn't sleep when you showed up for work at times, or maybe you had 90 minutes or
Yep.
whatever. There's days that you could tell that you weren't as energetic, but as the day moved on, you got a little bit better as soon as you got some caffeine in you or whatever. But it's all right. But no. So it seems that you really, really do love your position with the school, which is amazing because it seems to have opened up some additional opportunities for you. And now, specifically with My Brother's Keeper, what you said that they are for minorities in Washtenaw County.
Yep, it is. It is helping.
This chapter is Washtenaw County specifically that you're associated with,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. So there's we create different youth outlets and stuff for young Black and brown kids. Just different things like we'll give out food during Thanksgiving. So like we linked up with U of M to be able to do that with some of the football players out in the green. We, like I said, today we did the 3-versus-3 tournament. Every second Saturday of the month, the same day as 734 Saturdays. In the morning, we actually do 2 different breakfasts, one at the Peace Hub in Ypsi and then one at the Peace Neighborhood Center in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And again, like everybody's invited. It's not just like Black people can come. It's just like anybody who wants to come and,
right.
Hear the stories about some of the youth. Because there's a lot of youth that go through stuff just even here in Ypsi.
Right.
And it puts a lot of my life into perspective about how crazy my life could have gotten even at a younger age,
right.
and how lucky I am that like my life didn't turn out that way.
Right.
And like
so like what? Give me an example.
Being shot.
Well, yeah.
Being shot, like flat out.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Like just accidentally getting shot and just gun violence. Like gun violence is a rampant thing, and a lot of kids nowadays, like they're doing it over petty stuff.
Right. Like, what do you think? Why is that? Why is it just that it's not? Are they numb because of video games, do you think?
I think it's just life. I think they're just like, and it's crazy to be like that young and just tired of life.
Right.
Like that's sad to see that.
So they'd rather just kill somebody and go to prison, or
it's just immediate reactions. Like you get pushed so far and then you're bound to make something. Like I said, I'm not going to say that I've made all the best decisions in my life personally, but there are a lot of decisions in my life where I could have gotten in trouble, but I didn't. And then I've realized like dumb decisions, don't do that again.
Right.
And it circles back down to education. It circles back down to like, having like good health programs that are set up for like mental health and stuff. Right. So like you have kids like that, kids can go to therapy and not have to worry about having insurance or somebody to talk to. Like their families don't have to worry about paying whatever they need to.
Right. Well, because I keep going back to like all the different shifts that you've had. Obviously you're young, you're figuring things out, you lose your mom, you can't really rely on your dad. I mean, that's very much like my story. If you think about it, it's just, there's times and you kind of just, you have to figure it out. You have to persevere. You have to push your way through. Why do you think you made those decisions to persevere and push through and lift yourself up? You said education, because obviously that is a key, is you need the education. Doesn't mean you need a college degree, but you need the education to get you to a certain level.
Critical thinking, just flat as out. It just comes back to critical thinking. It's like, I'll sit there and think, like, all right, if I make this decision, what are the outcomes? I weigh the outcomes. Now, are the pros outweighing the bad, or are the bad outweighing the pros? All right, I'm probably not going to go with it. But sometimes, like I said, you get pushed up against the wall where it's just like, I don't have an option. So it's just like, you're gonna do something that you're not going to want to do. And then it's just like, at any point in time, that's how you end up getting in trouble. And then you've screwed up your life now for like 10 years. So now you're in prison.
So you analyze the situation. You say, okay, what could happen? And if I could end up in jail for this long, or end up dead, or end up here, or end up there, it's not for me. So I'm going to go this way. So everything is about a choice. So you just analyze your choices and say, what is the choice that's going to keep me on the up and up, make me money, keep me moving forward, striving and thriving, of course.
Yeah, I just don't want
yourself.
I don't want instant gratification, right? Because if something comes into your life equally as fast, it can just disappear.
Right.
So like, if you don't understand like what you're doing and how you need to get to where you're going, you just end up there at happenstance, then you're most likely going to be very short-lived.
Right.
And
but living in the different neighborhoods and things like that, why do you think that you and your brothers, for that matter, why do you think that you guys chose the other road? To make sure you didn't fall into getting shot or getting into those. I mean, Cody had a little spell, but
Well, I mean, like I said, we kind of all did, man. Like,
But whether you got
unfortunately,
caught or not,
it's just like I said, it's just not trying to waste my life. That's it.
yeah.
It's like I've come too far in my life to just throw it all away, and I'm not trying to do that. Like
No, and I
ever.
think that's what no, and that's impressive, and that's the fact that you can say that. You can say this is what I want for me. That's the key. Is you have your carrot. I always call it a carrot. I like my carrots. It's always at the end of a tax season. If it was a vacation or something, that's my carrot. I always hang my carrot. Like that little rabbit that's chasing that carrot on the track or whatever with the greyhounds.
Mm.
And so it's like hang your carrot. What would you what's the next step? So I'm not saying that you're going to leave your position or anything, but for growth in that for you, what's your next step to concentrate on you?
For me, next is probably going back to school eventually. I'm gonna wait until all the kids are grown now before I go back to school because no.
So you keep referring to kids. So how many kids are in your household?
Two. I have my two stepsons, Hayden and Hendrix, and then my girlfriend Christina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a complete family.
Yeah. No, my daughter Riley still lives in Georgia with her mom.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, no more putting on anything else on the plate. Like
Yep.
I can't. No, I'm not going back to school. I did that already. I went back to school after I had gotten my degree because I was like, I wanted to get my accounting certification too.
Yes.
And so I went back, got my accounting certification, and then I just remember doing like that entire process, and it
Yeah.
was just like that. Like I said, I was working overnights at the Hilton,
Right.
so it's just like there are days when it's just like I come home from Hilton, go drop the kids off at school, get ready for school and do schoolwork,
Yeah.
sleep for like 2 hours, and then go back to work at 11 p.m.
Yeah. No.
So
Oh, no. Not fun at all. Not.
yeah,
No. And it's hard. It's hard when you commit yourself like that. Especially if you're doing weekend programs too and things on top of that. It's just like the hustle and the bustle of doing that. But it is better to have that education and to get get into your position to see the growth because it's better than working in a car wash, and not that working in a car wash is bad, because believe me, I know a guy that seriously, the Whitmore Lake exit car
that's
wash,
fine.
he used to work there. I know the guy. He's friends of it was friends with my dad, actually. A friend, like there was a friend in between there, but and he was retired, but he worked there, and he washed cars, and he loved it, and it just made him happy, and he was just a chill dude, and he just whatever. But so I'm not saying there's anything bad about working in a car wash, but for your sake, that you didn't want to get wet and soaked and frozen.
Yeah.
You probably
Pneumonia.
or pneumonia during the polar vortex for what you're doing. So that was kind of your sign. Maybe the universe said, look, TJ, everything's frozen. You don't really want to be doing this. You need to go look at Craigslist.
Yes, sir. Universe be streaming.
I tell you, I mean, I see all the different, checks and balances that it throws out there for you. And I see how it has worked for me. So I'm so excited. So those next steps are once the kids are grown, how much time are we looking at there?
Where am I? I'm 34, 6 more years. Next goal really is to buy a house. I'm looking in Monroe right now.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's next 5-year goal is definitely getting
Buy a house.
and then definitely going to Japan. I'm going to Japan.
Okay.
That's for sure happening. That's probably not happening for a few years though.
Yeah, but we have some bucket list, a lot of things. So obviously the house, that's always buy the house. But get the kids up and through high school, get the 0 to 18, get them out.
Well, not get them out, because like that's the one thing. Because like we've been for sure about this. Like we've told them many times, like we're not going to push you to go to college immediately after high school.
Right.
Work, live, figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Right.
And then if you do happen to decide to do it, go to school after that. If not, start looking into some of the programs that your school has now. Like Hendrix, mind blowing. Like the kid knows how to code. Like he I'd sit there and watch this 12-year-old build games that some adults can't do.
Well, no, right. And they teach this stuff. I mean, all of the different elementary schools, depends on which school that they're in. I mean, they all have a different focus. I mean, it's amazing that how what these kids can be taught. I mean, things that would take me probably years to learn at this point, just because I'm not accustomed to it. But these kids just basically come out of the womb with a cell phone in their hand. I swear.
Yep, man.
It's just one of those things, you know.
Easy. So, it's just allowing them the space to be able to figure out who they are as people and being able to grow up and give them that freedom. Like there was what was it? It was last year. It's because Hayden's now starting his junior year, and last year or his freshman year, he had taken Spanish, and they had planned a trip for Spain. We didn't hear anything about this, and like he finally he'd come to us. He was like, "Yeah, no, I don't have to go to Spanish class because like the rest of the class is like, half the class is going to Spain." And we're like, "Well, why didn't you let us know?" And he was like, I didn't want to bug you guys with it. It's just like, I don't ever want you to feel like you can't. We would have definitely figured out a way for you to do that, because that's like an experience as a kid that's just like you don't
usually have the opportunity.
Yeah, like I never had opportunities like that as a kid,
right?
Ever. Right. And it's like we are responsible enough and lucky enough in our life to be able to provide that for our kids and stuff now. So it's just like to be able to do that brings any more joy than the stress of me having to make a couple extra dollars.
Right. Absolutely. No, I understand that completely. Now, one of the things that we do here, and I think I mentioned to you before, it looks like my candle blew out here. It came to the end of it, so we need a new candle, but oh well, can't control those things. But what I talked to you about before was the anthems, because we go back to the music and how important music is to you. So through everything, and it seems like you're always providing for somebody. You're providing, there's very little bits of time, because even listening to you talk about the kids, you're talking about them not pressuring them to have to jump into something that they might not be interested in. But, thinking back at you really didn't have a whole lot of time to be a kid. You were always on that adult, always had to be the adult. So giving them the opportunity to not have to be an adult, at least in their teenage years, and let them just be students in school, doing the things, they're finding out the things that they really, really enjoy to do, before they actually have to be an adult, is a really nice opportunity that you're providing to them.
Yep.
So I just want to tell you that. But then going back to the music and our anthems, all of that, what would you say your personal anthem would be? For whatever, maybe a chapter, or for your life? Or is there a song that you just put on that pumps you up, that's your song before you go in for an interview, or before you go in, for anything that you have to do, whether it's receiving good news, bad news?
The World Is Yours by Nas.
Really?
Yep.
I like that.
Just easy answer. Nas is my favorite rapper.
Yeah.
And like I said, most of his music is just
right.
It gets me pumped. It makes me so happy. It's just like, it gets me amped. It gets me ready to go. And like, it was funny. I was actually leaving work this morning, and they were talking about Nas on the radio. Actually, they were talking about how he keeps to himself and how he just doesn't want to be out there like that. And I was like, I can completely see that. Yeah. And I understand why. Yeah. Me, I'm the opposite though. I'm just like, I can make friends with a brick if I needed to.
It is true. It is true. You are a social butterfly, in a afro. Come on. You could see you a mile away.
Yep.
You watch your other story. I'm like, there's TJ.
Yep. Christina says it every time we leave the house. She's just like, I can't take you anywhere because 5 different people know you. And I'm just like,
oh no, it's not 5 people. There's 20,000 people in Washington or in Washtenaw County that know who you are. Anybody for 5 years that drove down Washtenaw Road, and that saw you. And
I still have people who stop me to this day.
Yeah. They know you. I mean, it's ingrained. And believe me, I posted to the neighborhood to see if anyone in my neighborhood wanted to be a guest, just, kind of meet neighbors and things like that. And I said, as part of that, and I said, if you remember Uncle Sam dancing on the side of Washtenaw, that's, that's who I am and that's where my office is. And so that's how we've always, we've promoted it, because it's, like I said, to this day, I mean, there's people that were never even my clients and I just talk about my office and they said, "Oh, I never realized you were there." And I said, "Well, I've been here for, now 17 years. And, then they would, and I'll say, "Well, oh," I said, "I'm just, down from campus and we talk about this." And I said, "Oh," I said, "You remember Uncle Sam?" And like I said, they always go back to that. So it's all the way back to TJ and
I mean, sure, we even used it in a music video.
did. That was good. That was good. So so what's going on? So future for music, you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, music will always be a
Still
thing in
with
life. Yep.
still with the same guys?
Yeah, no, I mean, not with Drew anymore. We had kind of a splitting out, but
It's hard to shut spigots off.
it really is. It really is. But
Sometimes you have to, but then you can always turn it back on. Just because you shut it off doesn't mean you can't turn it back on.
exactly.
That's the key, because you can always, let them back into your life little bit by little bit, and then and you can rebuild those relationships as long as they're good relationships and not toxic. I mean, that's the key, is because you need people in your life that lift you up and that want to lift themselves up, because you can't constantly now dedicate yourself to always taking care of people. You have to take care of yourself too.
Yep.
And so you have to remember that, because you can't love others unless you love yourself.
You can't take care of everybody else around you if you're not taking care of yourself. Like whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally.
Exactly. You're no good to anybody else until you take care of yourself.
Yeah, no, I was like,
That's something I had to learn.
I make sure that I have dedicated time just to myself. Even if I have a huge busy day at work, I make sure that I go for a walk on lunch, because I have like an hour lunch. So it's just like I have this dope trail around work, and I will go listen to my music.
Yeah. And now the podcast.
You see. Oh man. And so I take the good with the bad and try to be happy for what I do have in my life. Like even with all the crap that I'm dealing with my dad right now, like a lot of people are like, "Man, that's got to be crazy." And it's just like, it is, but it is.
Right.
So it's just like, I just got to be happy, provide him with things. Like for me to be able, I realized that was like one thing I realized was like, okay, my dad has never actually seen me perform. So back in March for our showcase, we sat there and I brought him out, and I was like, I bought him a whole new outfit, some new shoes and stuff. My older brother was in town. Like all my brothers, they all came out that night. And so we sat there, great show. I had the Formula 734 kids performing that night. Great show. Amazing. I got up on stage, did an acapella set for my dad real quick, because I was like, he's never seen me rap, so let me just rap some bars for him real quick. And like my dad just I could see him glowing and was just like so proud.
Good.
And like my older brother Ryan, like I hadn't had like the best relationship with him, but it's like I always try to still reach out to him. He's my brother. Like I've always loved him.
Right.
And so like he finally got to, like, after all the years of just talking about like, "Oh, well, you just party and shit." And I was like, he got to see what I do as like my business. And he's like, "Wow, this is crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, this is what I do." This
isn't just me going to a club and picking up a mic.
Yeah.
A production.
Yeah, there's like a whole thing with this,
Yeah.
and so like that was his first time getting to see that with me. And like, like life works out the way that it needs to.
I think so. I think so. I think absolutely that is 100%. Not, I think, I know. I think that is, I keep saying I think, but
it's, you got to say, I know, solidify
it. I know, you speak your truth, right? So that's what everything is. So, well, thank you again for joining us on this week's episode of Life Between Coasts. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to grow our community of listeners. We'd like to thank TJ for joining us this week, and we hope you have a great week. Until then, bye-bye.